there, welcome to our new segment that we're calling Chakotay's Odyssey, featuring the adventures of Janeway.
That's terrible.
In case you didn't check out last week, oh, by the way, I'm Gregory Barrett, one of your hosts, and this is my lovely wife, Christine.
Hi.
Thank you very much for watching our content here.
Don't forget about the kitty.
Yeah, and this is our guest star for all the shows, Fluffy Kitty.
Yeah.
So this is a new segment of the show where we're going to talk about Voyager, Star Trek Voyager.
And I keep on
Because
saying, do
this
we
is
have
Christine's favorite show, and she's never finished it. I've certainly never finished it. So what we're going to do each week, every week we're going to watch one episode.
Well, we watched two this week.
Except for when there's a two-parter. Like for the first episode, it's a two-parter episode. So first episode is called Caretaker. So we're going to break down all the things we love and maybe some things we don't love about Star Trek Voyager, a show that ran for 7 seasons.
Unfortunately for
from
me.
1995 to 2001. How did this get 7 seasons?
I don't know, but we will start in on it. Unfortunately, Gregory's making me do this, because I
You
unfortunately...
make it sound like I'm holding a gun to your head. This is something we're doing for content.
In our episode last week, we started talking about this show, and I mentioned that I never finished watching it because I just tried a few times and I couldn't get through it. So Gregory had this great idea that we're going to watch it.
Yep.
Anyway.
1 week at a time.
Oh, God.
But we don't have to watch very much. We don't have to watch one episode.
It's torture,
so
though.
Let's start this off. Looking at Rotten Tomatoes, this has a 76% critic rating, which means about 3/4 of critics said something nice about it. Doesn't mean they said it was amazing. They could just say something nice. And 77% of the audience said something nice about it. So that's pretty decent scores. I always found this show kind of boring. So I don't know how it's getting these kind of scores.
I think when I watched this Caretaker episode 1 and 2, I think at the time when it came out, we had seen pretty good content about Star Trek. And I think we had some rose-colored glasses on when it came to this show, because we had some good shows. When
Voyager started in 95, TNG was still running, and Deep Space Nine was running.
And they were awesome shows.
And they were and this is the weakest of the three. For sure.
And well, we can't even mention Enterprise came, I think, after that, and that was very weak.
But
it didn't get renewed.
Star Trek Deep Space Nine got 7 seasons. So did Voyager.
Yeah, well...
And how did that get to 7 seasons? Was it because everything else was over?
I think
because they ended TNG and Deep Space Nine.
I don't know, but I just...
And then all that was left was Voyager.
I just think we assumed it was going to be better. But as we got into watching this, a lot of people stopped watching it, like myself, like you. But I think when I first watched this is a 2-parter, Gregory didn't remember it was, but I remembered. I think we just assumed that it was going to be good.
We were hoping it was going to be good because Star Trek was on a roll at the time in the early 90s, I guess.
Positive opinion of these first 2 episodes. This is called The Caretaker, Part 1 and Part 2. I think when I watched it in the first place. But watching it this week, again, after knowing what happened with Voyager and how I did stop watching it, I think there's a lot of problems with this first couple episodes.
So we're going to break down the episode in just a minute. However, this episode, I remember when this premiered. Okay? I watched this when it premiered.
Me too.
Did you?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I did watch it, but
so
I think
high hopes for it.
I had rose-colored glasses on, which is what I'm talking about. And I think I assumed that any omissions or errors or whatever they were going to get to that or whatever. But the problem is, the way the episode ended, things didn't change.
No, the characters were pretty boring. It wasn't written the greatest.
It wasn't. There's a lot of holes in this.
Let's see. Yeah, it starts off with some homework. They put the text on the screen, so that's homework.
Star Wars.
And it's like, okay, the Federation is making peace with the Cardassians, but there's some Federation civilians along the board. They don't like it because they're racist against the Cardassians. So that's xenophobia there. So they don't like that. So they start a rebellion against the Cardassians.
They already had the group,
and then they're fighting them, and so you got Tuvok as the rebel captain there, No, sorry,
No, he's
Chakotay.
not the captain.
Our main man, Chakotay, is captain of this ship. And for some reason, Tuvok is there. And I'm like, why would a Vulcan be a rebel?
We do find out why.
And there's some other people there. And
Balana Torres. There's only two.
Anyway,
really.
they're fighting the Cardassians, but that's not important. Then they go into this storm and they get swept away. Okay, cool. And then suddenly and then instead of cutting to Voyager, it's like, nope, we meet Janeway and she's going to meet Tom Paris for the first time, and he's in jail.
Conveniently on Earth.
Why is she going to recruit this prisoner who used to be a Maquis?
That's why. So what it is, Maquis, basically it's people whose planets were invaded by the Cardassians, and the Cardassians did bad things to them.
Yeah, we just discussed that. They're racist against the Cardassians. Okay.
They're not racist. They have a gripe.
They
don't agree to be at peace with them because they want vengeance. Anyway, although neither of the people that we see are Bajorans, they're just one is a half Klingon, Balana Torres, and Chakotay is like part native.
Yeah, the Bajorans were fighting the Cardassians in Deep Space Nine. So why are these other people?
I don't know.
Anyway, they got their reasons. They just hate them.
Yeah. So, but there's really only two of them. The other people in the episode are just filler people. These Maquis people.
Maquis.
Anyway, it's lame. And Tom Paris is this big rebel, right? He's this big, like, a-hole, and he's got a big attitude. That's interesting.
He's a loser.
Okay, no, well, this is how he's presented.
We're spoiling all these, by the way. This is full spoilers if you haven't watched the show from 95.
It's presented as this conflict.
That's on you.
Between him and Chakotay. However, even within that episode, we learned that he was only with the Maquis for, like, one mission. So I don't see
captured.
How Chakotay would be so hateful towards him. That is a plot hole right there. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because he's like, I hate you, Tom Paris, because you betrayed the Maquis. You betrayed the rebellion. How dare you?
He didn't really.
He didn't really. He got caught. Now he's in a Starfleet uniform.
Well,
even they put him in a uniform, but he's only an observer. Why would they give an observer a Starfleet uniform? That makes no sense.
Way too much leeway.
Especially if this guy's a prisoner.
They're giving him way too much. She lets him lead the ship at one point, and she's only known him for like a day.
Well, by the end, because they had lost so many crew members.
There's 100 and some on there.
So Janeway recruits this Maquis prisoner who's kind of a loser.
Okay, that makes sense.
They go to the storm to track the Maquis. They get sent to the Delta Quadrant.
Well, no one should go into
that's the whole premise
storm. It's very sketchy looking.
Yeah, why are they going in there?
They shouldn't go in there.
Because they got this special Voyager ship. They said some nonsense about they got like biocells in the hull or something. And I'm like, what is this garbage?
It's like the metachlorines in Star Wars. Like, we never hear about that much after this.
Oh, you're never going to hear about the metachlorines in another movie.
This Betazoid is giving us a scientific, encyclopedic description of the Voyager ship. Anyway, and it's very cheesy, that scene where Tom Paris is, like, hitting on her. And that's, like, it wakens us back to, like, the Kirk episodes back in the original
he was a ladies'
series.
Man.
But we don't see that. We don't have that as much in the Next Generation or in
the new
Star
Trek
Space
movies.
Nine or anything. And then they did get rid of any of that. So I thought that was really silly.
That was a dumb scene. He's hitting on this shuttle pilot, and then she keeps trying to distract him, and then finally she's like, "Hey, look at that ship," and he's like, "Oh my."
Yeah, it was really
dumb. And he completely forgets about the woman, so
unprofessional.
She did a good job, and but he's just an observer. He doesn't have to be professional.
No, but that was poor writing, because we hadn't seen that kind of sexism in Star Trek, and all of a sudden they put that in the first episode, like within the first few minutes of the episode. So that was really stupid, and we don't see that kind of thing again from them. And I thought that was really disappointing, because this was in the 90s by then, and we were done with that kind of stuff in TV. Like, we were talking about that on our previous episodes about, like, this kind of really big sexism towards women. Well, by the time the 90s came, this was out of TV.
In Star Trek, I would say yes. Some networks, like Fox definitely
No,
had
not
it,
like
okay?
that,
Let
though.
me tell you, in 95, Married with Children was still running. And by the way, if you haven't
Oh,
watched
that
Married
was
with Children,
different.
great show. It's
But
so funny.
That's a different
But
thing.
there was definitely, because that show was all about sexism.
No, but
it's about
this-
sexism towards
anyway,
men and
I
women.
feel this was like the original series, Kirk hitting on any woman that walked past him. Anyway, so that was kind of strange in the episode, and I know that as far as I recall, in the next Voyager episodes and all this, we don't see that again, and so that was lame in the episode.
I think you just want to talk about Tom Paris. Let's talk about the main man here. Let's talk about Chakotay. So
Chakotay is not the main man.
He's captain of the.
So boring.
Yeah,
He's
is.
even boring in this when they're trying to make him edgy.
He's a rebel.
Still boring.
And he's still just so straight-laced and unemotional. And then when they have to team up with the Star Trek crew of the Voyager, when they have to team up with the Federation crew soldiers, they're just going along. And when B'Elanna, who's also a Maquis rebel, she's like giving Janeway crap and everything and walking away, and Chakotay's like, hey, she's the captain. You better listen to her. Why would he tell his people to listen to her?
No rebel.
Makes no sense.
It makes no.
And by the end, it's like he's the XO, and he's like, "Hey, I'm a good guy."
Well,
we're cool.
This doesn't make sense.
He doesn't seem like a rebel at all.
He's never been a rebel type person as we know him, and in the next parts of the show, also he has this hatred to Tom Paris, and then all of a sudden it's all forgiven. Now he loves him.
You know what?
By the end of the episode,
maybe we'll find out his backstory more, but here's the thing. He's not a Maquis rebel. He is, but in name only, because here's what happened. The Maquis recruited him, and he was just like the best guy because they're running short on pilots, right? He's like, hey, you're really good at this. How about we pay you, and you'll fly our ship for us while we go around and, be guerrilla terrorists? And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. So his heart's not really in it, right? Chakotay.
No,
so
that's
maybe
not what it is
I'm just thinking he's like a hired hand.
I thought you were talking about Tom Paris. No, he's not. He said that they killed his people on his planet and murdered his people.
Did they?
Yes. You don't even know who Chakotay is. Yes. But the problem is the writing of Chakotay is all wrong. If he's supposed to be this rebel without a cause. Now, Torres is way more.
He seems more like a hired hand.
He's not, though.
He could be a hired mercenary. I think that's what it is.
Oh my gosh, he's not. Pay attention. You didn't even pay attention to the episode.
No, I'm writing a good backstory for this guy.
That's not his backstory, and we learn more about him.
That's it. I'm writing this backstory for him because we don't
have
a backstory for him.
We do. He says in the episode that the Cardassians invaded his planet.
I don't remember that. I think you're thinking of episodes later on, because he definitely didn't say that in that two-parter episode called Caretaker.
Because you phased out. Anyway, the thing is, he's mild, he's reserved. He goes along with everything Janeway says, and the most stupid thing about the episode in the end is Janeway, number one, makes Tom Paris fly her ship and gives him this appointment and makes Chakotay her second in command. This guy that they're hunting.
But he has all this experience.
He's a criminal.
Yeah.
And she thinks they might get back home right away. It's so stupid. So it's kumbaya. By the end of the episode, we're in kumbaya mode. And the problem is the show stays in kumbaya forever.
If you think about the backstory we just created here,
it
works.
It's not his backstory.
Works. So we talked about Chakotay. We talked about Tom Paris. What are your thoughts on Janeway? Because this show does feature the adventures of Janeway.
Her decisions are ridiculous.
Okay.
She would never let a criminal be commanding her ship and then give him a post and then give these two other criminals like the best positions on her ship.
Did you think she looked like a good captain?
She acts like a captain.
Yeah.
Would act. I think they put too much makeup on her.
They made her look really good in this episode.
And the stupid,
there's she's got to look good for some reason.
Stupid things. When they get hit by this wave, when this guy, basically the episode is, the caretaker is this guy on this array, and he's looking
I'll talk about that in a bit. Let's just talk about Janeway right now.
I am talking about it. He's looking for people in the universe, and he sucks their ship in. And when he grabs their ship and takes it across the universe to where he is in the Delta Quadrant, their ship gets really wrecked. Half of the people die in the ship. Janeway's hair is all sticking out, and it's like
she's
there's
got all
steam
frazzled
coming
hair
down. and all this kind of stuff. And then in like 5 minutes, her hair is like perfectly, and it's put in a braid, and it's like perfect.
You missed that because that's. Let me give you
And the ship also looks perfect.
She went in the turbo lift and she had her hair down on one side. So then by the time she got to engineering, she had fixed her hair because I guess the turbo lift ride was really long.
Perfect.
I mean, what else was she going to do?
Nothing was out of place.
I don't know.
The ship also looks perfect. After that, in the episode, there's like all the dead people are not really mourned, and
they shoot them out into space. You can't, or
they
could compost them, I guess.
Funeral or anything, and the ship looks perfect, and they kind of forget about them all and have a kumbaya moment.
Why do you keep saying kumbaya?
Because that's what it is. Like I said last time, it's a tea party. The whole series after this, there's no conflict in the characters. Everyone's just happy-go-lucky. And the people would be very upset at the end of this episode.
We're supposed to talk about Janeway.
We are.
No, you're giving a synopsis.
She should be really upset because they've been stuck in now the Delta Quadrant. They'll never see their families again. But yet, we'll be good. We'll go home next week.
But they're Starfleet.
It's stupid.
Did you notice the part at the end where she's arguing with Tuvok and he's like, no, we can't do anything. It's the Prime Directive. And she's like, I only obey the rules when I want to. She's like, I got that bad edge. She's like, we're not worrying about the Prime Directive out here. She doesn't say it, but, you read between the lines, and that's what happens. So that's what I found about Janeway. So starting to see that she's got, she's tough. Wanted to ask you, did you find the story for this two-parter to be kind of gross? Because I did.
Gross?
Yeah. So this caretaker is abducting people from different parts of the galaxy or different parts of the universe.
Yeah.
And he's stealing them. And what happens is then, this is a really early 90s thing and late 80s, is that then he abducts them from their ship. So it's an alien abduction, and they all get probed.
And they should have some PTSD after this.
And then he just beams them back.
Like, that's what I'm saying.
They're abducted by these aliens. They're stripped naked and put into these machines. They're probed, and then they get sent.
They have weird clothes
on. They're in these machines.
No, but they have weird
That's
garments
the machine.
on.
And then they get sent back, and they're dressed, and they're like, wait, what happened?
That's what I'm saying. Half the people on the ship die. The ship is half destroyed. It almost explodes.
They all get probed.
And they get probed by aliens. They kidnap 2 of the people. And yet, they're just like,
we're cool. We're cool. And they keep trying to help
this. We'll never see our family or our dogs ever again.
Well, they keep trying to go back to this caretaker. It's like, you got to send us back. But they don't really enforce it. He's just like, nah. And they're like, okay, let's go do something else. And they find these lab rat people who... It's these weird Star Trek elves. They look like elves, but their ears are really big and messed up.
With the ears or the
and they're essentially lab rats of this caretaker guy, and he's keeping them alive by saying them energy and food. So they don't do anything.
Silly.
They don't know how to survive. And there's these other people who all they value is water. But they got giant spaceships bigger than the Voyager. Why can't they just go to another planet that has sentient life? Because Star Trek has tons of them, and they can just get water somewhere else.
And all these people on the planet that are living on the same planet as them need to do, because they have giant ships with lasers and they shoot the ground to go down in there. Mm-hmm. So silly. The Voyager crew just shoots a phaser and escapes from this place. If they have ship capability, they can go anywhere else and get water.
Yeah, that made no sense.
Why did they give them ships? It would have made more sense if this was a
primitive pre-spacefaring race, and they're just on this arid planet.
Stuck there, and maybe they had buddies that had ships, but they wouldn't give them to them. That part makes no sense at all. I mean,
that would make more sense.
It doesn't make any sense, that part. And the whole story with Cass, she escaped. Well, we don't seem to...
You mean Tess?
Tess.
Is it Tess?
No, it's Cass.
I'm going to look it up.
Tess? Jeez, you're getting mixed up with...
Sorry, it's been a while since I only watched...
You're getting mixed up with...
Tess. Jennifer Leanne is Cass. Yeah, sorry.
Anyway...
It's been a long time since I've seen this show.
And we learn later in the show that she's only, very young, because they only live 9 years. Anyway, but somehow now Neelix is her boyfriend, and somehow she's got away from Neelix, and she's living with these people that have kidnapped her, and Neelix just randomly comes upon Voyager. It's really silly.
And tricks them into helping him rescue her.
And he's so irritating at the end.
And smelly. Apparently he smells a lot because they never get to have a bath except for a sand bath. Or sand scrub, I think he calls it.
Yeah, like the jokes with Neelix are the same throughout the whole series after that. Like him making some soup or something. He's like the Swedish chef or something.
You know what I noticed with Neelix and Cass at the end was that he wants to stay, so he's like, I can do this, and I can do this, and I can be a cook and everything. And she's standing right next to him like, I can't do any of these things. But I'm a useless lab rat.
All they needed to do is
just a useless character.
She could teach the people. They just left the people. There's no new character. They just abandoned those people. They only have 5 years left, and they just abandoned them.
That's not their problem. They just get thrown across the galaxy.
Instead of like maybe telling Kes how to help the people, and Kes would stay with them and help them. No, they just all leave and abandon these people to die, and that was the whole point of their whole being sucked across the universe, was so that these people could be looked after or given tools to look after themselves. But they just abandoned them.
Yeah, so they didn't want to do that. That wasn't their job. They're pissed off that they're now on the other side. Would you?
The array. And they know that the problem exists, and it was the caretaker's last dying wish, and they just leave them and they take Kes with them. Very poor writing on this whole episode. Yeah. And I know when I watched it at first, I assumed, okay, well this will be fixed, but it never really.
But let me ask you this: if you're on Voyager and you just got thrown across the galaxy, are you going to help this guy help out these lab rat people, or are you going to be like, screw them, I want to get back home?
No, well, they know they're not going to get home in time. It's going to be 75 years. The least they could do if there's a purpose to them being sucked.
Did they say 75 years?
Yes. If they're being sucked across the universe, was at least solve the problem of the... Now he's a rock. I'm going to see if we see that rock anywhere in the episode.
But they're in the future, in Star Trek universe. They can live another 75 years.
No, they can't.
Sure they can. No, they'll definitely live above 100.
Life. They don't have extended life. Janeway's already older in this episode. Anyway, 75 years is a long time. Anyway, it's silly. It's silly. The episode is silly.
I don't think you would help him. You would be like, blow up this thing and let's go. Or maybe don't blow it up and instead use that technology to get you home.
Or do something.
What they could have done was just keep those sand people, those primitive sand people, don't have them have ships, okay? And then they just go bug the caretaker, and the caretaker's dying, and he's like, no, I'm going to blow this up, self-destruct, so then the climax is they have to stop it. And, well...
I don't know. There's a lot of problems with it.
He says it's self-destruct, but he only tells them at the end there's nothing they can do. So then they get out, they beam out, it blows up from self-destruct because you got to have it so they can't get home, right?
I mean...
And it can't be their fault. Okay. They have to have done everything they could. So if they just did that, then they're stuck there. They'll be... Your point will still stand. They'll be like, there's these useless lab rat people and these sand people, but screw them, let's go home. No, and that's exactly what you would do.
Because also they've interfered with the society. They've already been there. They've already talked to the people.
Yeah, so she said screw the Prime Directive.
There's nothing stopping them from just helping them to get to the surface and learn a couple of things. Just
Didn't
learn how to look after themselves.
Or something?
No. Anyway... It's silly. There's a lot of problems with the episode. I guess they wanted them to have an enemy in the Kazon right away, but I think that was really foolish that the Kazon were stuck there, but yet they seemed all of a sudden they have they have this giant ship. They can go anywhere and get water, get any kind of resources.
Yeah, they shouldn't have had that.
That was really silly.
Yeah.
And Neelix went rogue and started shooting them. They should not have given Neelix a phaser. And giving him a phaser after that, like, made him like he was one of the crew right away. They accept anyone into this crew. Like, we could just stand there hitchhiking on the side of the...
They're pretty gullible, this crew.
Side of the moon there, and they just pick us up and invite us to their tea party.
But isn't that what Kirk and Picard also do as well? They just pick up people all the time on the Enterprise.
They don't let them live with them. They don't do that.
They're shuttling aliens all the time on their ships.
No. They don't take them in and give them phasers and call them members of their crew within like 2 hours of meeting them.
Yeah,
which is
you're right.
Essentially what they do.
These are not good. This This is not even the B team.
No, they're like holding hands and
This
they're
is like
kumbaya at the end
D
of the
team.
episode.
So
People who are supposed to be big enemies.
You know,
Which
okay,
makes no
so
sense.
get this. If all these people on Voyager, all the Starfleet officers, if they're all like bottom of their class, okay? They graduated from the academy, but with D's, okay?
No, they have to be a California class. They're not a California class.
Okay.
This is like the prime ship. This is like the best ship they have. This is not.
No, that's
this is
the
not
Enterprise.
The lower decks.
That's the Enterprise.
No, but this one, as they say, it's very fancy. It's got all the new gel technology and all that garbage. But you know.
Then why does she need a pilot who's in jail? I'm sure they got lots of pilots.
No, you don't understand. Why she asked him because they want to infiltrate the Marquis. She's trying to get Tuvok back.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
But then just
I don't know if
accepting
Tuvok was on her crew before. They
Yeah,
acted
he
as
was.
they were friends, but
You didn't pay attention.
I got the impression that he was like a Starfleet intelligence officer.
She's getting her security officer back.
Okay, I missed that then.
He missed half. You don't understand what happened in this episode.
I do.
She needed Tom
It's just a
Paris
lot didn't make
to
sense, so I'm
get
writing a
her-
better story.
to get her security officer back. That made sense. But afterwards, everybody loving each other and being so at peace and everything. And then that's what happens from then on. And Tom Paris's character goes from being a dirtbag to a hero within the day as well. And then he stays that way.
Here's what we can do here. This looks great. So, a lot of things in this episode didn't make sense. You agree?
Yeah, and Harry Kim is as irritating as always.
We didn't see him very much.
He's too much.
Him and B'Elanna were the ones that the alien said, I'm going to keep these two and keep probing them and experimenting them more. So
he didn't do that.
They were upset about that.
They got sick when they got there.
Okay, so this episode didn't work very well. So how would we fix this episode? Ooh, hey, kitty.
Well, I think that she would put them in the break, for one, and Tom Paris would be restricted access to things.
In terms of the caretaker, so what was the names of that alien race, the Sand People? Kazon?
The Kazon.
So
they're big
you
enemies.
have the Kazon, they don't got ships, they're just Sand People, they're pretty primitive.
Be the Kazon.
But they're going to get at these...
They would be another group.
They're going to get at these Star Trek weird elves and they're the lab rat people, because they live in essentially a...
All they had to do was
containment field.
Tell them how to get to the surface.
They don't have ships. The caretaker sets the self-destruct on his array when he dies, and he doesn't tell them until right before he dies. And then they can't stop it, so they gotta get out. It blows up. But then what do you do with the lab rat people? Say that
not lab rat people. He likes them. He loves them. He's looking after them.
What
They're
you have is that the Kazon bust in there and slaughter all of them except for Cass. So then Cass is like, well, now I don't have a home. I don't have a home. Neelix's ship got blown up with the array, and now he's like, what am I going to do? So
should have been there trying to rescue her. That would have made more sense.
So what happens is then you have the two of them, they're stuck there, and they have to be on Voyager. Otherwise, Voyager's going to have to maroon them somewhere because they don't have any ships or anything. And I already fixed it with Chakotay. So now Chakotay, he wasn't really hardcore into the Maquis. He was just a hired mercenary. He's a really professional, calm mercenary in the Federation world. So they hired him, and he's like, sure, you're paying my fee?
Tom Paris was the mercenary.
No. So Chakotay, that fixes it, and then because now he's just a hired hand, but he's also very experienced and very cool under pressure because he's always so cool, right?
He's not Starfleet.
That guy never raises his temperature.
B'Elanna is Starfleet.
But if he's a very highly experienced mercenary, then it solves the problem of why Janeway made him the XO.
No,
because they got all these other mercenary people that he has to control, and if he's in a position of power and he's really good at his job, because he was never really into the rebellion, let's say.
She could have put him on the security team.
So that makes sense.
It doesn't make sense. It still doesn't make sense.
Tuvok, nothing with Tuvok makes sense. He's a boring character. What do we got? B'Elanna is pissed off, but Chakotay, our main guy, he's going to keep them in line. Janeway has proven that she didn't put together a very good crew for this ship. because the Doctor was a dick, and then he died. So then we got the introduction of Rob Picardo as the holographic Doctor.
He's
He's
the only
great.
good thing about the show at this time is the Doctor. We don't get 7 and 9 till later on in the show.
Several seasons later.
I mean,
how would we fix the problem with Tom Paris? Why would she go to hire Tom Paris?
There's a reason why she went to him. The problem is how the crew starts hugging him and like accepting him as one of their own.
How would we fix that? Why would they do that?
On a probation, and
maybe he was like the bad boy, popular guy at the academy.
Anyway,
before he got kicked out, and so everyone,
he's
like a legend. He's like the Van Wilder. And so he's a legend, so everyone's like, this guy, he's so cool. And now he's on our ship? Awesome. I think we just fixed this episode.
I don't think so. I think there was problems. I don't mind her as Janeway. I don't really... The cast was given a terrible script. And it continued.
Oh, no doubt.
And that's the problem.
But that's why we just fixed it here.
I don't have a problem with the cat. I don't think that would fix it. Anyway, it's problematic from the get-go. And this is why the show was so damn boring, and there was no good conflict in it. Yeah, they had to fight some people, they had to get out of the Delta Quadrant, but it didn't make sense from the get-go. So we'll see how... Some of the
stuff makes sense.
If I have to watch any more episodes, I will.
Some of the stuff makes sense because they were pissed off at the caretaker for taking them away from their home and abducting them and probing them.
They're not mad at him, though.
And then not sending them back.
And
then he blew up his thing, so they're like, yeah, screw this. We're not... And then the Kazon or whatever, they kill all the elf lab people there.
They're not lab people, okay?
Okay, we fixed this movie.
It's
and
not
Neelix's
a movie,
ship
it's a
is
show.
also blown up, so Neelix and Cass have to stay with them. Chakotay is the hardcore mercenary who's now EXO.
The thing that I liked about this episode was the ode to the original series where we have this big blob creature who can look like a man, and then he's like this blob thing, and then he turns into a rock. Mm-hmm. So that's like the ode to the original series. I did appreciate that. I like that. I wonder, I'm going to look on the next episode, see if they actually have, like I was saying, have that rock somewhere. On their counter or something, like in the cafeteria, because it's like basically his dead body. Anyway, I did like that about it. I like the concept of 2 enemy crews working together, but I think that they failed already because all of a sudden they're holding hands.
They're not very. There's not much conflict between the 2 crews.
Conflict, no.
I mean, B'Elanna tries a little bit, but she seems to be the only one.
And she's like mad about her Klingon heritage, which I don't think is a good thing. I think that's starting off with a bad concept. Anyway, basically, do we have to watch more of this show?
Oh yeah, we gotta watch the whole show.
Oh
the whole
series.
Who's so far? So in this episode, in this 2-parter episode, who was the best?
Who was the best?
Yep.
Character.
Yeah, what was the best character in this show?
Oh my gosh, they're all
Pick
one.
one.
The Doctor. He's the only one that's good. The
Okay.
Doctor. Cheers to Robert.
You want to know what I think? Who the best character is in this episode?
Who do you think?
Chakotay.
Oh my god. I love it how they have a native
He's so
character
cool under
on
pressure.
The show.
He never gets angry.
But this is the problem. He's supposed to be an angry guy.
No, he's cool under pressure.
He
knows how to deal with stress and combat. He's always just stoic.
I love
he's like
how
Batman, but less angry.
They've made a Native American character. I think that's fantastic. However, the use of Chakotay, it was completely ruined. They basically, all these stories don't make any sense, unfortunately.
No, that's okay. But we're going to see just how bad it goes. And we're going to keep doing this every week here on our segment of Chakotay's Odyssey, featuring the adventures of Janeway.
That's his title.
Hopefully you'll come back to see us next week. Thank you very much if you actually watched that. And if you enjoyed it, give us the thumbs up. You can subscribe. We post more content here every week. And
if you don't want us to watch more
Fluffy
Voyager,
kitty's down there playing with the thing.
Please let us know if you don't want us to watch more Voyager.
Leave a comment down below and let us know how much you love Voyager. Have a good day. Take care.